East High School. ELL stands for English Language Learner, so I taught most of the immigrant and refugee students who came in through the school. And I was very privileged to do this, because I was an immigrant teaching immigrants. I moved here when I was 5 years old with my family from India, and the port of entry into the United States was New York City. And when most people think of international cities with high immigrant populations, they tend to think of places like New York or Houston or LA. But I think Kansas City is also one of those cities on par with them. And I know this to be true because Kansas City Public Schools alone has students coming in from over 57 different countries. And there are a lot of them. There are over 1,000 of them currently in the district, and we get 400 new refugee families coming every single year. Each of those families has their own kids, sometimes a lot of them, and they all have to be enrolled and matriculated and placed in classes in the system. And before I go on, I just want to say, I get this question a lot, this math is accurate. There is a line to each of the 57 countries that come out. I didn't just make this to look pretty. So anyway, going back to the issue. So to illustrate how hard it is to matriculate these students into the system, let me tell you a story about one of my students that I had last year. His name was Sakrutu. He was a Karen boy, and he was fleeing Burma with his family because of the ethnic cleansing that was happening there. He grew up in a camp in Thailand, and when he got to Kansas City, he didn't register centrally at a central office. He went to a school site, just like 70% of the immigrant and refugee students who come into the district. So he was not marked down as ELL. That means that there is someone at Language Services, who I spoke to, who spends 10 hours every week pouring through computer enrollment records at each school site to find students who have slipped through the cracks. Sakrutu was found, in addition to her normal duties, like this is not just her job. So Sakrutu was found in December. And finally, after winter break, he shows up in my classroom to get ELL services. He joins the over 100 students I already have on my caseload. And I have to then spend about a month to really get a good idea. To really get a good idea of what his academic levels are so I can start providing adequate services. And his story is not unique. So because we cannot control the places where our students come from, their situations, their level of formal education, or even where they enroll, if we are going to leverage and harness the incredible internationality and diversity that already exists in Kansas City, we can make the greatest impact when a student walks into a classroom and interacts with the teacher for the first time. And that is where the ELL Teacher Archive comes in. The ELL Teacher Archive is a digital hub full of tools to help teachers transition students into the classroom. And after having interviewed over 30 administrators, educators, community leaders who work with this population of students, I basically discovered that the categories for what they want, the resources that they want, fall into two broad categories. About 10% said that they wanted academic resources, and about 10% to gauge academic levels and provide services. About 10% said that they wanted cultural competency information so that they could create a culturally safe space for the students that are coming. But 80%, an overwhelming majority, said they wanted both. And it's interesting to note that not a single person I spoke to said that they didn't need anything in addition to help that would help them. So on the ELL Teacher Archive, you can find tools to discover your students' abilities. I was tired of spending 1 month trying to find my students' math abilities, and so I developed a screener that's 1 page front and back, and it takes a half hour to administer, less than 5 minutes to grade, and gives you an idea of a student's math ability from U Americans to Algebra 1. And I was able to iterate this multiple times and really get it to a good place in Kansas City Public Schools. But I'm also in the process of developing native language screeners as well, which have been asked for by English and social studies teachers to test for transferable skills into their content areas. For cultural competency, I'm in the process of developing materials to answer questions that teachers are having, like what does respect look like in the culture? What does affection look like in the culture? How do I approach parents? And there's also an aggregated event site where you can find out when the Karen people are celebrating New Year, when the Somali people are celebrating Eid, so that you can participate in the communities that you are involved in. And then finally, I got repeated requests for an aggregated Archive to read up on local, international, and national news that affect our classrooms on a daily basis. One teacher asked me about more information on the unaccompanied minors coming across the border because she wants to look forward to when they enter Kansas City classrooms. So to develop all of these resources, I'm very proud to say that I already have a relationship with Kansas City Public Schools. They've been very generous and opened their doors to me to help iterate these products and really develop them in-house for our unique demographic of students. But Kansas City Public Schools is not the only school system or organization in the area that services these international students. So I really want more. I'm willing to talk to anyone who wants to open their doors, administrators, teachers, to help develop these resources and pilot them in the classroom with these students. I'm also looking for any community leaders or members of the immigrant community to come out and answer these questions that teachers are asking to bridge the gap between the classroom and the outside world. I'm also looking for a designer and a web developer to give polished and professional products at the end of all of this. And also for grant information to really get some seed money to make this a reality. So I'm very passionate about this population of students, and mainly because, like I said, I was an immigrant myself. And this is a picture of me when I first came to the country, and if you can infer by how I'm dressed with the Winnie the Pooh t-shirt tucked into like my chest, I did not know a lot about American culture at all, and kids can be very cruel. So my first 3 years in the country, between the confusion and the tears, I remember my time spent in the ELL classroom as an oasis from all of this, where my teacher really used cultural competency tools and academic tools to engage me and teach me and train me to be an asset to this country. Kansas City currently has over 1,000 of those assets sitting in classrooms right now. And with the ELL Teacher Archive, we can really leverage them. Thank you so much.